California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. Chen is back. He is a school board member in the Hacienda La Puente School District. And I want to speak with you about La Puente High School, a historic community, and something is happening historically with La Puente High School.
Yes, so this year, Hacienda La Puente will be celebrating the 100th year anniversary of the founding of La Puente High School, which is our oldest high school in the entire district.
It's interesting that we're at a point now where high schools are celebrating this milestone, this centennial. Take us back to 1914, I guess. What was La Puente High School? What was its focus? Who were its students? What did it look like?
Well, I had an opportunity to look at some of the old photos, and it's really fascinating because that area used to be completely agricultural.
Really?
And the old La Puente High School looked like a mission, and it's really unfortunate that they tore it down. But we still have a couple of old buildings there. We have the little theater, so when people do performances, you can see the chairs are really old. It's very historic. And where we bake ceramics, that's also an old building. And I also heard that back in the day there were tunnels running through the campus. Yeah, and they're still there. So
it's always nice to have someone graduate from your high school that goes on to tremendous greatness. There is one individual that graduated from La Puente High School that I think it's fair to say has become a star.
Right.
Tell us about your famous graduate.
Well, that would be Secretary of Labor, Hilda Solis, who is now the supervisor-elect for our community. And she has been so supportive. Right after she ended her term as Secretary of Labor, she came back to La Puente, did a tour of the area. She speaks to students. She's very, very committed to this area and very proud of her La Puente roots.
What's remarkable about Ms. Solis, and I've interviewed her a couple of times, you know, she says, I'm just Hilda from the San Gabriel Valley. And in a lot of ways, she is. You know, she kind of grew up in local politics, was in the Assembly, I think was in the Senate, member of Congress. And she described for me the call she got from then Chief of Staff Rahm Emanuel, now Mayor of Chicago. She thought he was just calling to say hello, to say, we'd like to tap you for Secretary of Labor.
Yeah, and it hasn't been an easy path for her. I mean, even when she was in high school, she recounted a story where a counselor said, you're never going to be anything more than a secretary. Don't even go to college. And she kind of met that and exceeded it by becoming Secretary of Labor. And when she was running for local offices, you know, she wasn't part of the establishment. And I think it's a great message for our students.
Yeah, what is that message? You know, when Hilda Solis, then Secretary of Labor, comes back to La Puente High School celebrating its 100th anniversary, what does that do for your students?
I think it shows our students that they can be anything that they want to be. That if they put in the hard work, and she did work very hard.
Was she a good student? Do you know?
Well, based on that counselor who said that she shouldn't think about college.
Maybe not.
But maybe, you know, that's not, you know, it's not always about grades. It's not always about your test scores. And that's something that we as schools have to wrap our heads around as well.
Speaking of grades and test scores, I often see in front of certain schools a banner which says, we're a blue ribbon school. So one of your schools, Los Molinos, is it elementary?
It's an elementary.
It has been named a National Blue Ribbon School. Lord, what does that mean? I never knew.
Well, a National Blue Ribbon School, that's basically the highest honor that a school can get. And it's a national distinction. Every year, about 300 schools are chosen, and it includes charter schools, includes private schools, even international schools.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So there are schools in Taiwan and Singapore that could be up for the honor, but they're basically American schools. And it basically means that you have maintained consistent excellence for a period of time.
What is excellence? How do you define excellence?
It would mean how well your students are doing. So for a high school, they would look at graduation rates. They would look at performance of students within subgroups as well. So just because some students are doing well doesn't mean that the entire school is doing well. We have to make sure people aren't being left out.
And I think back to La Puente High School in 1914, the population then was overwhelmingly Anglo descendants of Europeans. Today, the graduates of La Puente, I believe, are mostly descendants of Latinos and Asian Americans.
About 95% of La Puente, if not more, are Latino.
Oh, it's Latino. The district has a significant Asian American population, but not the La Puente High School area.
Hacienda Heights has a significant Asian population, but on the La Puente side, it's predominantly Latino. And it's a huge difference. I mean, when you think of La Puente, you automatically today think, oh, that's Latino. But if you look at the yearbooks, I mean, it was like Leave It to Beaver.
Really?
I mean, it was completely Caucasian, really different. The class sizes were much smaller then. But we still have a lot of people who are, who graduated like in 47, 48. They've come to participate in these celebrations. Pat McIntosh, she's a class of 1947.
Now, who is that? I know her name.
She's part of the La Puente Valley Historical Society.
Okay.
And McIntosh Field is named after her father, who was the longest-serving principal for La Puente High School.
Okay.
So there are a lot of old-timers, basically. La Puente is a very traditional historical place where people, they tend to stick around and they have a lot of pride.
But then look at you as well. I mean, you are from Hacienda Heights. You went to
Wilson High School.
And you came home.
Right.
I mean, you could have gone to the, quote, bigger city, you know, a little farther west. You could have done a lot of things. You stayed home.
Yeah.
How come?
I think, you know, the San Gabriel Valley offers a lot. And when you're growing up here, you think, wow, it's so boring. This is, our claim to fame is this is where Back to the Future was filmed, right? At the Puente Hills Mall.
Right.
But now,
right. I just watched that with my daughter.
Oh, yeah, you know, the mall scene. So, but after I've lived abroad, lived in China, lived in Latin America, I realized all of these things, you know, great Mexican food, great Asian cuisine, it's all right here in the San Gabriel Valley. And we're so lucky to have it. So I see more and more people coming back to enjoy it.
I digress for a moment. You mentioned going and living abroad. You just went abroad with Lincoln, Chen, who was your 4-month-old. I digress, but you took Lincoln to a pretty historical place.
Yes.
Where'd you take him?
Well, we took him to Italy, and we went all over Italy. We had booked this ticket before he was born, sort of forcing us to commit to this trip.
Right.
And we visited the Vatican.
The Vatican?
Yeah.
You took Lincoln Chen to the Vatican.
We took him to the
How
Vatican.
did that go?
It was great.
His first Mass in the Vatican.
His first Mass, and you know, when he saw the Pietà, he broke down into tears. It was so beautiful.
Oh, come on. Did he?
He did.
Well, we don't know if it's because it was so beautiful.
Yeah, I think he was just...
Let's come back to the local area and talk more about Hacienda La Puente, which, like every school district throughout this nation, is going through, through the state. Not every state has adopted Common Core, is going through the adoption of Common Core. I think it's fair to say that this year really is the kind of first full year of Common Core adoption. Is that true?
That would be a fair statement to make. You know, we are suspending a lot of the old criteria that we were using, you know, the standardized tests that we were using to grade our students on so that we can implement Common Core. And we've been, I would say, ahead of the game compared to a lot of other school districts in terms of getting Common Core off the ground. We've done a really great job involving our teachers.
Sure.
They've been very happy with how we've been doing this, and the burden has been on them in terms of, okay, how do we adjust to this brand new curriculum?
Now, as Common Core was rolling out, a lot of folks in certain political circles were making a lot of noise against Common Core. And I'm wondering if that noise percolated to your level. There was, you know, movie theaters that were rented out for presentations against Common Core. Have you heard rumblings about the kind of fervor that's built against Common Core in some communities?
It's interesting you mentioned that because, you know, recently Common Core is a national initiative you know, by the president. And recently he visited to declare the San Gabriel as a national monument.
Yes, he did.
And you would think, well, this is a great idea, but there were a lot of people who came out against it. And sometimes I think when something comes from the national level, from DC down, you're just going to get a reaction. Even though I think the fact that Common Core teaches you to think more critically, more problem solving, a little more in depth, I think it's a good thing. And in our community, we have not had that kind of opposition. So it's been pretty much accepted. We haven't had that kind of
How are the teachers doing? I got to think that's the biggest adjustment is with teachers. I mean, they've been dealing with No Child Left Behind for over a decade. How are they dealing with Common Core?
They are very excited about it, and we have been working very, very closely with them, knowing that this is additional work. It's a completely new curriculum. So we are not just leaving them out to dry. So.
Okay, his name is Jay Chen. He is a trustee with the Hacienda La Puente Unified School District. I'm Brad Pomerance, and this is California Edition.